Hi, I'm Blue New Stifter, and along with Clint Heron, I'm one of the primary designers of Flashpoint Tragic Events, the new expansion for the Flashpoint cooperative board game. I'm here today to briefly introduce you to the two main mechanics introduced by this expansion, the Fire Deck and Event Deck. Let's start with the Fire Deck, since it's what drives the action. Keep in mind that the components you're being shown today are only prototypes. The final product will contain full-color cards printed with easily distinguishable backs. The Fire Deck was intended as a replacement for the Hotspots mechanic in the base game of Flashpoint. We wanted to retain the feeling that Hotspots gave the game, of intensity and difficulty amping up during the course of the game, but introduce some exciting new tension. You'll set up the Fire Deck during setup. You'll do the explosions, hazmats, and POI markers as usual, but you won't set up hotspots. Instead, you'll create the Fire Deck. The Fire Deck will be something that players draw from at the end of every turn during the Advanced Fire step to see how the Advanced Fire step will proceed. During setup, you'll create the Fire Deck from two types of cards. The main type of card is called the Fire Rages. When a player draws the Fire Rages during the Advanced Fire step, they'll advance fire as usual, just like they would in the base game. Depending on your difficulty level and the number of players, there could be anywhere from 7 to 15 Fire Rages cards in the deck. The fewer there are in the deck, the more dangerous the deck becomes. There will also be one card in the deck called Accelerate. Accelerate is how the deck intensifies and becomes more difficult as the game goes on. When a player draws Accelerate, first they advance fire twice. Just like in the base game with hotspot chains, you'll completely resolve the first advanced fire roll, including explosions and flashovers, before taking the second roll. Then, you'll place a flare-up into the discard pile. I'll cover those in a second, but they'll continue to make the Fire Deck increasingly dangerous as the game goes on. Then, you'll draw and resolve an event from the Event Deck. This way, Accelerate always comes with something new and unexpected that puts a twist on the game. Finally, you'll take the Fire Deck discards and the Fire Deck and shuffle them back together. That way, you'll never know when Accelerate might come up again. It's always a danger. Flare-ups are the cards that Accelerate adds to the deck each time it comes out. You'll have a supply of flare-ups that you set aside during setup. Depending on your difficulty level, there may be as many as 6 or 10 flare-ups set aside for the game. When you draw a flare-up, the first thing that happens is the current player receives 2 saved actions. We tried to amp up the intensity both on the side of danger and on the side of the firefighters for this game, so a lot of cards will give, take away, or use saved actions in new and exciting ways to keep things fresh. Then you'll advance the fire as usual. Then you'll place another flare-up into the discard pile of the Fire Deck. In this way, the difficulty of the deck will increase exponentially until the flare-up pile is empty and they've all been mixed into the deck. Then, just like Accelerate, you'll draw and resolve an event. Again, this means there's always some new twist that happens. Finally, you will draw and resolve another card from the Fire Deck. This means that just like hotspots, you can run into chains of 3 or 4 advanced fire rolls in a single turn. That adds an exciting tension to drawing from the Fire Deck, because you never know when things might get completely out of control. So that's the Fire Deck. Let's talk really briefly about the Event Deck. The Event Deck was created to add an extra bit of unpredictability to the Advanced Fire step. Events can radically change the shape of the board or how firefighters are supposed to operate. That means you're going to have to stay adaptable and ready to switch your plans at a moment's notice. Let's go over some of the events. Some of the cards in the Event Deck are entirely good. For example, Burst Water Pipe allows the firefighters to roll for a water deck gun roll anywhere on the board. If they don't like the result they got, they can, as a group, spend save actions to re-roll it. Some of the events are entirely bad. For example, Backdraft causes a group of 3 or more smoke markers to flash over into flame. Or Broken Hydrant will cause the deck gun to stop working on the side of the house where the fire truck currently is, until the firefighters spend actions there to fix it. My favorite kind of events are the ones that are mixed blessings or require the firefighters to make difficult decisions. For example, Now or Never allows all the firefighters to immediately, in turn order, spend their save actions. Any that they don't spend are immediately lost. If they've been frugal with their saved actions, firefighters may have a couple of extra turns during the Advanced Fire step for free. However, if they only have 1 or 2 saved actions or are in inefficient positions, they may end up wasting those desperately needed AP. fortuitous escape requires the firefighters to make a very difficult decision. Is it worth throwing out 2 damage markers from the supply out of the game in order to remove a flare-up from the deck and out of the game? The fire deck will become less dangerous, but the house will be closer to collapse. Is it worth it? That'll have to be for you to decide. As one of the co-designers of Tragic Events, let me just thank you for your overwhelming support so far. I am blown away to see how many people are excited about this expansion, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.